We're with David Shapiro. David is a criminal defense attorney in San Diego, California, and he's agreed to answer some online questions specifically related to restraining orders. With that said, David, let's get into the first question that was posted. I have been charged with a violation of a restraining order on my ex. What are my options?
Keep your mouth closed and get a good attorney. Basically, it is a criminal violation, which is alleged, whether or not the restraining was civil or criminally based, meaning you could have a restraining order in criminal court as a criminal protective order for a pending criminal court case, or as a protective order as a condition of your probation in a criminal court case. You could have a civil harassment restraining order, which is not criminal in nature, but only if you violate or allege to have been violating that restraining order does it become criminal in nature. You could also have a domestic violence civil restraining order, and that becomes a criminal offense if it's alleged you violated that order. So the best thing you could do when charged or when alleged to have violated a criminal protective order, or any protective order for that matter, is keep your mouth closed, hire a good attorney right away. Particularly in a criminal court context, there's a lot of consequences that are far more serious than anything civilly. So you want to keep your mouth closed, not confirm or corroborate anything that's being said. Hire a good attorney and let them develop a good strategy moving forward.
All right. Next question. Due to a sexual charge, I have a restraining order placed on me. Will this be public record?
Yes, because the charge is public record in and of itself. The court file, at least some of it, is public record in and of itself. And any background checks will reveal a temporary or permanent restraining order, or at least it should. So, for background check purposes, it probably should. The best way to find out for yourself, though, is to do a live scan fingerprint process. Basically, do that voluntarily, find out what comes up. If someone runs a general live scan Department of Justice background check on you, you kind of have a heads up on what they're going to see. The court file, though, is public record. So if I wanted to go down to the courthouse, or anyone wanted to go down to the courthouse and give your name and date of birth, they could do that and find out any pending criminal court cases against you, what the charges are, what happened very generally speaking at the court appearances, and also there would be a copy of any criminal protective order issued in favor of the complaining witness in the case.
Okay. Next question we had is: I just got a call from a detective who wants to speak to me based on my wife telling him I violated my restraining order. Should I go?
No, don't go. Don't say anything. Don't call back. Don't text your wife and say, what the hell are you doing this to me for? Don't do anything, because other than hire an attorney or contact an attorney who knows, has experience in these types of cases. That's not going to make it worse than if you do it yourself. Because what happens is, you go down there, or you make a call back to this detective, and you're like, hey, she said she texted you. You texted her 40 times. No, I didn't. I texted her twice. Okay. You just admitted to 2 violations of the restraining order. You now have 2 misdemeanors on you. If you keep your mouth closed, I got to prove that. If it's a violation of a protective order, you being physically with them in their presence within 100 yards or whatever the guidelines of that protective order prohibit, what you're doing is you're confirming where you're at, and you're giving them evidence that they might not otherwise have. You're giving them a corroborating piece of evidence to what your wife or the alleged victim or the complaining witness is stating. So why would you even do that? If my wife has a restraining order on me and tells the cops I violated it by going to her work on such and such a date, and the cops want to know where I was on such and such a date, why would I say anything? I mean, it sounds absurd, but I wouldn't even confirm I was on the planet. You know what I mean? Because you say, oh yeah, I was down there in National City that day. Okay, great. Maybe you just, I was there in National City, but I wasn't with my wife. Well, you confirm you were in National City, assuming that's where she is. If you say something like, if you're like, yeah, your wife said she saw you, you went to her house. No, I wasn't. I was here that day. How do you know the cops are telling you the truth? Just keep your mouth closed. You have nothing to gain to go into a conversation like that without the advice of an attorney. And if your attorney's any good, they'll tell you to keep your mouth closed and let them deal with it. Usually what I will do in a situation like that is talk to the detective and say, hey, I represent so-and-so. What do you want to talk to them about? Let me know. Maybe I can help. Because if I say certain things to the detective about where you were, what you've done, what you didn't do, that can't be used against you in court. But if you say certain things about where you were, what you did, that type of things, it's going to be used against you in court. And it's not going to be used to your advantage. So less is more. Don't corroborate anything. Don't give them 1 element of the offense if it needs 4. Don't give them 4 elements of the offense if they need 5. Just keep your mouth closed, protect yourself, protect your interest, and certainly don't talk to the party who has the protected, at least legal protection against you.
Makes a lot of sense. Last question we had is, how do you charge to defend against restraining order violations?
Well, it all depends. I mean, it all depends whether or not you have prior alleged violations, whether the restraining order violation is part of underlying domestic violence charges or a whole new case. You know, you could be found in violation or alleged to be in violation of a protective order, then you could also be charged with other offenses. So it all depends. In and of itself, though, in a domestic violence context, you know, it's important to know these cases sometimes are difficult to resolve, because if you're convicted of a violation of a restraining order in a domestic violence context or in a domestic relationship context, you may very well walk out of this with no jail time, and that's pretty normal. But you would have to do, the law says, if you get probation, you have to do 52 weeks of domestic violence or anger management counseling. So these cases sometimes are difficult to settle. So, you know, I factor that in. I factor in whether or not there's any other charges. I factor in whether you have priors. I factor in whether there's any felonies kicking around. And in all honesty, I factor in where the case is, where in San Diego County or Southern California it is. How much time is it going to be? Some courthouses are more difficult to settle cases than others. Ironically, misdemeanors sometimes are more difficult to settle in some cases than felonies, in some courthouses than felonies. So all those factors go in. You know, it could be anywhere from a low end misdemeanor, you know, $2,000, $2,500, all the way up to $5,000, $10,000, and it all depends on the case. It all depends on your history. It all depends on the allegations, and it all depends how much of a hole you know, you might be asking me to hopefully dig yourself out of. So a lot of variable factors, but you know, I could work with you as far as realistic payment plans and all that type of stuff as well.
Excellent. Okay. Well, if you have any additional questions for David, all you need to do is post them to the comments section below. He's agreed to get back to you with any answers you have. Obviously, you can also reach out to him directly. With that said, David, thanks for your time.
Yeah, my pleasure. Just remember, doing these things yourself is not a good idea. Hire a professional who knows what they're doing, who has the experience, that knows what they're doing, and can protect your interest, you know, before you dig yourself in a hole that no good attorney will be able to get you out of.
Thanks, David.
My pleasure. Thank you.